Hi, I'm Valerie Bealle. I'm at the Cool Tools Studio, and I am going to show you how to set a cabochon using metal clay tabs into a metal clay backplate. I'm going to set a stone using metal clay tabs and instead of prongs. Most of the time that I've seen metal clay set with prongs, it's used 16 gauge wire that have been balled on the ends, and I don't think they're really attractive. I think that prongs are much nicer looking. Because of the shrinkage of metal clay, you've got to deal with the size of the stone and work things around that so that it shrinks perfectly. I'm going to start with a piece of double sticky tape, and I love to work on 10 square to the inch graph paper. So I'm going to put a piece of double sticky tape down. And I also like to line some part of the stone up with one of the darker lines. And the reason I use the graph paper is when I define the entire shape of the piece, it gives me a sense of how far I am away from the actual stone when I draw it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take quite a sharp pencil, and the stone is now stuck down there. It's not going to slide all around, and I'm going to angle it in toward the stone and draw around the stone. So I know that this is the basic stone that needs to be set. Now I'm going to have to decide what the back plate looks like. And I always do several drawings, and I'll show you some that I've done for this piece. Because I want to see what different back plates look like with this shape. So I have this one, and I thought that I would do something to make the back of the stone have, the back plate have lines that match the stone. I did this one with almost no showing back plate, and I tried a rectangle, and I decided that really the most attractive one followed the shape of the stone. So that's my first step. Then I have to decide what kind of a tab I'm going to make. Am I going to make a rounded tab? Am I going to make a pointed tab? What is the nature of that going to be? I looked at the stone and I said, I like the angles on this. And because I decided to follow the angles with my piece, I would like to have a tab that comes up with a little point on it. So I've marked where on the drawing where the tabs have to be, and I've put them here, 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 and here. If I put my tabs right up against the stone, even if I make this bigger than the stone, if I correct for the shrinkage, it is not going to fit properly. So I move the place where I do the tabs about 1 to 2 millimeters back. So I'll put my tabs there, here, here, and here. And I have taken this and I have copied it on my printer which has the ability to copy and increase in size at 118%. And I come up with something that looks like this. Now the next question is, how deep do the tabs have to be? Well, you know the tab has to go up and over the stone. So we're going to measure the thickness of the stone. But in addition to that, it has to cover the thickness of the plate. So what I'm going to do is put the two together, knowing that the plate will shrink some. And I'm going to measure this. So, okay, that much. Now, I don't ever have to take this and look at the measurement. I can just use that as a size. And what I would do would be to take this, put it on my piece of paper. I can see how long that's going to be. So it's this distance. It has to have this much between the points. And I'm going to add a couple of more millimeters, because if I don't, I won't have room to bend the piece, and that's important. So I'll make it like this long. And this is my tab. Once the piece is copied, it looks like this. I then put double sticky tape on the piece, on this. I've cut out the center because I've made a decision that I want the inside cut out. It saves clay, and it just seemed like a smart thing to do. So I know that this is the size that I need. And I'm going to roll my clay. I like to roll my clay between my hands so I have a nice big ball. This is probably much more than I need. I'm going to put a tiny bit of cool slip on my hand and put it on my roller. It's not necessary to put cool slip, and I'll wipe my hands with a paper towel. Not necessary to put cool slip on the rolling plate because it's Teflon and it doesn't really need it. I'll try a smaller piece and see if it'll do. And I'll start with 4 cards thick. Because I'm using flex clay, it is important that I not add any extra oil of any kind to it. Okay, let's see, will this fit? Yeah, pretty much. Once I roll it down to 3, it will certainly fit. So I'm going to take my texture plate, I'm going to give it a spray. I'm going to wipe it off with a paper towel again because I don't want a lot of that getting into my clay. All of the clays don't react well to excess oil. So we're going to take this way and can I fit this here? Yes. Okay. I'm going to press hard in one direction, peel it off, and I'm going to cut it out. Okay, then I'll cut out the center, which will save me a lot of clay. And I have one that I've made and dried right here. And you can see what it looks like. And again, I put my, even though it's flex clay and it doesn't dry as quickly, I wrap it up right away because it all dries. Now I have to decide, mark this for where I'm going to put the tabs. So this is sitting here, and there's a tab that's going to go right there, one that's, and to here. One goes from here to here. One goes from here to here. And the last one from here to here. The next thing I would do would be, without using a texture, make the tabs. And that I always make 2 cards thick. Thicker than that, and it is not going to bend nicely. Metal clay, although it has many wonderful properties, really is porous, and it, even fully sintered, if you're putting a heavy bend in it, can crack. I have made 4 little tabs. And I'm going to, I have choices now. I could put the tabs down and bend them up like this so that you would see the end of the tab on the outside of the plate, or I could put it inside so that it's underneath the plate and you don't see the end of the tab. And I think, just to demonstrate, I'll put it inside. So this first one, I'm going to take here, and okay, that's good. I will cut this. And I'm going to give it some depth. This cuts so much more easily than any of the clays, the other clays that I've used, because the way the flex clay dries, it kind of dries on the outside, but the inside is not staying perfectly dry, perfectly dry. It's a little bit wet. So it's like it's always leather hard, and you can see you can bend it. You don't have to worry about it. So let's see if these tabs all fit. Yep, that one fits there. This one fits perfectly well there. This one fits. And this one fits. So they all fit. If you're not using flex clay, when you dry these, you have to dry them with an angle where you want them to be bent underneath the piece, because otherwise it would break. Now, because it's flex clay, I didn't do that. I just dried it flat. So now I'm going to take a little bit of slip or paste. Oops, there we go. And I'm going to take my water, and I have a habit that most people would say is bad, but I'm very clumsy and I knock things over all the time. So I don't keep a little container of water. I just spray the water right on my work surface. I will wet the back of this to start to activate it for pasting. And I will do the same thing with each of the tabs. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of paste down on this one and a little bit of paste right here, a little bit more paste here. And I'm going to slide this through. And bend it and stick it. So I'm pasting it and I'm very carefully bending it. It still can crack. You know, it's not like it couldn't crack, but it's not as likely to crack. Now, because the stone is going to cover this area, I'm going to put a little water here and just a little more paste here to secure everything. And a little bit around the back. Okay, the only thing left now is to make a bail. And I have to decide where I'm going to put the bail. Do I want, and of course this back plate is too big for this stone now, but we can get a sense of how it's going to look. Do I want a bail up here? Do I want it here? Do I want it here or here? I'm looking at this and I think I want to put it across here. The weight of the piece looks right that way to me. So to make my bail, and I'm going to put this aside for the time being, and I'm going to take these little scraps, and those scraps, because there's no sandpaper in them, could go right back in your paste jar. I'll put all of that aside, and I will clean off my work surface. I want to roll my bail 3 cards thick. Thinner than that is a little bit thin. It does have to support things. Thicker than that, there's no reason for. You'll notice I don't have to put anything on my hands because the clay doesn't stick to your hands. Actually, I need less than that. And I will kind of roll it between my fingers into a log. And here we go. Turn it. There. Nice piece of clay. I am going to make it, I would say, this long. So I'm going to cut a square part. Square part for the 2 ends. I'm just eyeballing it. I might do it very precisely. Probably not. So I can clean up anything after the fact. Okay, and I'm going to roll it around a tube that I have. This doesn't need texture or anything. And I can see that it's got to be about that long. The underside of the bail doesn't have to be precise or beautiful. It's going to be glued down. So I can see that this will fit. And I can press it together. I can use slip if I choose to. I can certainly take my knife and cut it away so that it's approximately even. I'll sand it when it's dry. This will be dried on a hot plate. And just push my seam together. As I said, this is where I'm going to attach it. So it doesn't need to be beautiful. It's just underneath. Dry that. I'll take out the tube when it's dry. I'll sand the two ends. I'll take this and put it upside down. I'll place it across here, and I'll glue it down with paste. And then it's ready for all of the steps up to firing. The next thing that has to be done, because it's flex clay, is it needs to go into a regular oven at 300 degrees for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes, it then goes into the kiln. In this case, I mean, you can low fire this clay just like PMC3, but in this case, I high fire it 1650 for 2 hours because these little tabs need to be fully sintered. There can be no question about that because otherwise they'll crack. So that's how I do it. And I will, once this is fired, show you how I set the piece. Okay, I'm going to set the stone, and I always put a little tiny bit of glue on the back to hold it in place, just so that it's stable when I push the prongs in. So I'm using E6000, which is a wonderful glue. It doesn't dry so quickly that you are working like a crazy person to get it all together, but it dries very well and firmly. And I'm going to take my stone and I'm going to place it into the setting and then put it just where I want it to be. A little, yeah, that's good. Okay, now I need to let it dry for a little while, maybe 10 minutes or so. Okay, now that the glue is set, the stone isn't going to wiggle when I try to set the stone. So now I'm going to try to set the stone. The first thing I'm going to do is to take pliers and very gently start to bend this. And on this side. Remember that metal clay is not as strong as other silver, so you really have to be careful. You don't want to crack it. And we're slowly bending it, hopefully in something of a curve and not a sharp right angle bend. When I get it so that they're over the stone, then I will take my nylon jawed pliers, which I love, and I will very gently squeeze it all the way down. Now, this one needs a little polish, and I'll do that after the fact with a little polishing wheel. It's easy enough to do. And we're going to do this one. And there we have a beautiful piece of labradorite in a very simple setting that shows off the stone. I've chosen not to put a patina on it because I think that darkening the background won't show the stone as well. And it's finished.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.